the fires. The great hunt begins.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 68 of the video game podcast PlayStation Pals. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the MJ to my Peter, John. John, on that note, who is your favorite character in the Spider-Man franchise that is not Spider-Man?
Man. So Miles obviously does not count.
No,
right?
they cannot have donned the Spider-Man suit.
I mean, it's hard not to then go into the villains because I mean, the other good. I mean, you got Genki and you got Miles' dad and the parents, but it has to be Venom. Like, he's just too cool looking. It has to be Venom. I mean, out of all the main villains, Green Goblin's pretty dope. Like, Willem Dafoe made that character, I think what he is today, but Venom is one of the just coolest looking villains out there. So
yeah, he's definitely.
I honestly don't really know much of his characterization. It's just I look at him and I go, fucking. Black.
Have you seen the movies of Venom?
I saw the first one and forgot every single plot point because it was very forgettable. We mostly watch it because my wife is a Tom Hardy. That's her free pass if you ever have a free pass game. But no, I just know that it's got the snarky gas station lady that was in Across the Spider-Verse.
Venom movies I'm not a big fan of because you can't have Venom exist without Spider-Man. It's just absurd. It doesn't make any sense.
Venom movies are great. The Morbius movie is great. I'm sure that Craven movie is going to be great. So,
we'll be talking about all those characters in a little bit.
You need to answer.
I think it's Green Goblin. He's the other iconic villain for Spider-Man.
I have another one, actually. Maybe it's just this specific take on it, but Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse, just the way that they drew that character is hilarious to me. Yeah, just how big he is. I don't know. He's kind of interesting.
There's a lot of good ones. Like I didn't know very much about the Prowler, but between Spider-Man Miles Morales and then the movie, it's like, oh, that character's kind of cool too. Yeah. He's kind of like a Batman, tech, very smart tech guy and evil.
Loves music,
but and the love of music is also cool, but. All right, well, we have a lot to talk about, including a huge release, so we're just going to get into how the show works. And how it works is John and I both bring up to 3 things to talk about. It can be a video game we're playing, like Spider-Man 2, a news topic, Reddit post, an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com, a Twitter DM at PlayStationPals, or at PSPalsPod, I'm sorry, or a comment on our YouTube page at PlayStationPals. Any of those things, we bring it and we talk about it. And today we have a total of 5 things. Sorry, I am very tired today.
So am I, dude.
Because I've been my reason is
this is a transition. I see. Sorry, I'm just gonna vent for a second.
I've been playing a lot of Spider-Man 2, the newest game from Insomniac, the PlayStation exclusive. And, we talked about the reviews last week, but, the IGNs, the GameSpots, those are small fries. What does your PlayStation pals think about it? That's who you really want to impress. So we're going to get into that. And right off the bat, John, let's just cover how far we are both in the game.
Sure. For those at home, see if you can guess who's further in the game. I had a pretty sad moment last night, where I booted up my PlayStation getting ready to play, and you know how it says like your little save and what percent you're at? Yeah. I was at 1% at about 9:30 last night. I had a really busy weekend with the family. We had a wedding on Friday, a little mini vacation on Saturday, and then my son was just chomping at the bit. So he got most of the PlayStation on Sunday because I'm, you could say I'm a good dad, I'm a bad dad if I let him play video games. I don't really care, but I am about 3 hours in. I've gone through 2 of the big set piece moments of the game. And even in that small chunk, though, I got some good impressions on it. So,
okay,
yeah.
Good. I am obviously, again, on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Oh, wait, yeah, because I looked before I started playing. I was like, I wonder where Nick's at. Oh, he's got 47% of the trophies. Oh, okay. And in trophy speak, that means you're almost at the end of the game. So.
Right. I'm anywhere from 15 to 20% through the game.
20 hours?
20 hours, sorry. Yeah. And I think my percentage is at like 70 to 80% completion, somewhere in there. Okay. So, yeah, I've obviously played a lot. And we're not going to spoil very much here, except for we're going to definitely talk about the opening fight. So if you want to go in blind, you know.
That being said, if you have watched the launch trailer, it's not a surprise. But, you know, for those who want to be fresh, clean slate.
Yeah, and anything else that we talk about will have existed in a previous trailer.
Yep.
Let's talk right away about, I want to start with that opening. Peter and Miles are back, and you get right into a giant villain battle, and that villain is Sandman. And I just remember taking control of Spider-Man, because I think you're Peter Parker.
You're Peter first, yep.
And heading to a giant sand guy off in the distance, and just the biggest grin forming on my face, because it looks awesome, it feels awesome, and you really already are getting, like, this is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Like, the power of having the SSD and everything is on display here, with just everything that's going on, how fast you're moving through the world. It's one of those, it's on like God of War 3 opening set pieces, you know, like the beginning of that game is Kratos riding a back of a Titan and fighting Poseidon. And this is Miles and Peter taking on a gigantic city-sized version of Sandman.
Yeah, it's got to be 50 stories tall, at least.
And everything going on. He's throwing vehicles at you. You get him in a bunch of little battles with a bunch of mini-me's, which John predicted last week.
That's right.
One of his guesses was would Sandman have little versions of themselves, and it came true. Mm-hmm. And I also want to note, before we get further into this, that this was John. John did not have this as one of his most anticipated games. I want to remind him of that at the beginning of the year. He did not have Spider-Man 2.
It's no Atomic Heart, that's for sure.
So I get to chastise him a little bit about that. But, John, what did you think of this opening battle?
Yeah, I really should have kind of expected it. You know what?
Right.
What the takeaway that I had from it is that PlayStation has a really substantial history with just having these crazy opening moments in games, right? You mentioned God of War 3 already, but even Miles Morales, right? You're riding on the back of Rhino and doing that whole thing in that game. The Last of Us has the very infamous opening segment. You know, there's just a lot of these kind of games that just come out and punch real hard. And so to have that a sequel to a game that I'm very familiar with on PS4 come out, and to see like, okay, well, what are you going to show me? What's going to be the way to raise this level to the next level? They didn't leave any room for doubt immediately. You know, you see the sand across the water, right? And I think, you know, they put him there for one big reason, to show you like, oh, I can go off of Manhattan. We knew that was going to happen, but to like, you know, see it happen in real time was, you know, a great way to start the game. But just with all the sand particle effects and everything, you know, flying around, zooming in, I got to give huge shout out to the music that they selected for this part of the game, because again, like, this is 3 minutes from hitting start, and you're vibing with the music. You're inherently, at least I was, just excited to see Miles and Peter together. Like, just them being around each other was a cool feeling that, you know, I don't think anybody's really ever felt in any video game ever, except for maybe Avengers, and even that is not on this type of level. But it just really set the stage for what the game is going to be, and you know, really kind of showed that it is going to have ways to one-up everything that came before it, and makes me excited to see, definitely where the story is going to be going from there on out, for sure. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought up the fighting along Miles. Have you naturally run into the world yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a cool moment. Is just like the last game, there are crimes being committed, and you know, it's up to you if you want to go do them. You know, you'll get some experience, some loot, and all that. But you'll go there, and Miles will already be mid combat, like fighting guys, and you'll combine moves together to finish guys off.
I love it when you do when you have your meter and you hit a triangle and circle to do a finisher, and like I don't notice that Miles is there, and all of a sudden he swings through and like gives me like finger guns. It's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah. And then like I don't know if you've ever done it. After the fight, you can interact with them.
Yeah, they did the spider pointy.
Yeah, that's the
pointy thingy.
Yeah, I'm glad that it highlighted that, and then. The other strong point about this opening is it gives you the wingsuit immediately.
Yeah.
And
we know you're going to want this.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into the how awesome traversal is in general, but again, to give you such a critical piece of traversal and not wait till halfway through the game or anything like that, like right off the bat, you have this incredibly fast and efficient way to travel through this world at an incredible speed is pretty sweet. And my hand is off to Insomniac for giving you that right off the bat, like that.
Your hand's off, not your hat.
Yeah,
you took your hand off. You can't play. You can't play it then.
Sorry. Again, I'm tired. I've been playing so much Spider-Man.
Just busting balls.
My hat off to Insomniac for It's just it is probably the biggest game changer going from Spider-Man 1 to this one is the SSD fast loading, but how they can take advantage of that by having the wingsuit in it. So
I mean, it maintained its crown of being probably the most satisfying and most fun, simple traversal of a world in any. Like, there's just nothing like it. Any open world game. Yeah, you can jump in a car. Cyberpunk's beautiful. It's great. You can summon your car. That's cool. But there's nothing like this. Just pure kinetic fun.
Yeah, I think there's very few franchises that can say just the act of getting around the world is fun. I think probably maybe Nintendo's the only one that can match Insomniac as far as like, hey, if I want to get to this world, there are some fun ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you think of Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, that's definitely there's a lot of creativity there for sure.
Yeah. So, but I got 3 strong points and 3 weak points. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to start with?
Let's get the bad out of the way. No, that's weird. Say the good stuff first.
Okay.
That's how people always
talk
about things.
Right off we'll just continue. The traversal is number 1.
Yep. The
wingsuit, the abilities you have to slingshot yourself. You hold L2 and X. This is a upgradable ability, so you don't have it. I think it's the first one you get.
It's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and then you can just slingshot. So if you're stuck on the ground, you instantly can get back to moving, back to swinging or flying or whatever it is. And then with the wingsuit comes these wind tunnels. Like your AR kind of like displays them as wind tunnels, but it's just windy there.
Yeah.
Or there's updraft points, and just those as well are just make getting around the world so great. And right off the bat, you don't have access to fast travel, but when you do, holy shit. Fast travel is no joke. It's a technical marvel. Like, it just, to load right into that world like that from anywhere on any point on the map, once you've unlocked it in that burrow or that section, it's just.
Yeah, when you think of that, some games need to still incorporate the little squeeze-through sections just to load the next little area. Yeah, it's quite impressive. And I remember seeing some things like when Horizon came out. It might have even been Zero Dawn. They were talking about how did they make this world look so beautiful and load at the time with the PS4 like as fast as it did. Or maybe it was even Forbidden West with the PS5. And, they incorporate all these crazy techniques where it's like, it's only loading what's in front of you, and it's just so fast that you can turn around and it loads it again. But, yeah, you're right, man. Like, Insomniac really needs to. Insomniac and Sucker Punch seem to be the two that figured out the fast loading better than anybody.
Yeah. It's just, man, it's just so good.
Yeah.
Second one, the audio design. You're playing with headphones, right?
Yeah.
It's just so good. Like so many of the collectibles, I just locate because of the audio. Like, either it's in the 3D Pulse headset and I can just figure it out from there. Or just like the one of the collectibles is these little spiders, and as you get close to it, your DualSense is going crazy. Like, the audio being used through the DualSense is just great too. Like, if you mute that game and just swing around, there's so many sound effects just coming through the DualSense.
I remember feeling that with Returnal. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. All the thips and all the swinging is coming through. It adds to the immersion, and it adds to the what I think they were really going for is like avoiding always having to look at a mini map or a map in general to find things. It's just like coming across it naturally.
Defeats the purpose of the fast travel if you're constantly interrupting it.
Right. So that when you're just swinging and enjoying the world is like you're just naturally drawn through this audio design to like do specific points. And we've talked about it before because this was in the other games. Is just that the fact that they have 2 audio tracks. One for when when either the Spider-Men are swinging or when you're just sitting perched. There are 2 different audio tracks, so their voices sound different, whether you're just standing or swinging. And Insomniac, wow, just great.
Yeah. What are your bad? I gotta get.
I got my third one. It's just the animation.
Oh, okay.
Just the way that you just feel like Spider-Man. Like one of the combos I did, like finishing the last guy. He was in like that typical Spider all 4 poses at the end, and I was like, that looks so dope.
Yeah,
like that looks so good, and just the way you were able to, and this was in the previous games too. You know, the way you swing and you can do the tricks, and you know, just from and all the different suits on top of that, and that if you're using like an Across the Spider-Verse suit, you're all of a sudden animating differently.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, and that's not even to mention, the intricacies of the combat and, you know, how there's many different finishers that just kind of happen at random. You know, it's always so satisfying to stay in the air for a very long time. Like, that's something I've realized with this, like, I like the way that they animate it where, yeah, you can do your hold square, you launch the guy up into the air, you hold triangle, you can launch another guy, but I think there's even a trophy for getting like 30 straight air tricks in a row or something, or air combat things in a row, and they all make it look so good and so fluid, and not that I wasn't expecting it, but you know, it really is black magic that they do at Insomniac.
Yeah, and it's not even necessary, like all the tricks you can do. It's just something fun to like add to while you're swinging around that you know you can perform little stunts.
Yeah.
All right, so you ready for the weaknesses?
Sure.
First one is the loot system. The games do not need, and this will come up again when we talk about another game later, simplify your loot. This game has, what is it? Just the parts, the loose, like the
tech parts.
Tech parts. You have rare parts. You have hero tokens. You have city tokens, and it's just too much.
Well, and oftentimes those parts do different things, right? Like the tech parts will do your suits and your gadgets, but then your city things, it's just like none of it makes sense.
Right.
None of it has a cohesive reason for it.
Yeah, just make it either 1 or 2 resources and just be done with it. Like, I don't know why we gotta, and I know like it's just like everything's got to be RPG'd to all hell now, and I know like loot is.
Give me the loot.
Yeah, important to a lot of people, and they like seeing like, oh, I'm getting more of this currency and this currency, but I don't like it. I think there was a reason Cyberpunk 2077 2.0 got rid of it all and simplified it, because I think a lot of feedback is like, this doesn't work. Yeah. It's confusing.
Yeah.
You know, and in a game that prides itself on so many options, so many ways to simplify the game, like the accessibility options is a strong point on this too. If you go through there's just so many things you can change about the game, but you needed to simplify this. Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure developers are just, you know, constantly worried nowadays because people love to be unreasonable. That like, you know, hey, well, you had 4 loot systems in the old game and you had 2 now. This game's half as good. And it's like, just think about what you're saying for a second and try and you know, take a step back and not just jump to a conclusion. But that's my guess, is that Insomniac's just like, well, you know, more means that people will get more out of the game.
And look at God of War Ragnarok. I think is the same issue. It's just like too much weird, different things like that I got to keep track of if I want to get certain.
Just let my weapons get stronger, give me new abilities, and I don't really care about the ticky tacky shit in between.
Right, exactly. I don't need to get lost in the weeds. I'm here to play the game. But again, like I said,
just tie it to leveling up or something.
Tell that to people loving Baldur's Gate 3. You know, it's like that's a big part of why they love it. And then, moving on to that is the perks and upgrade system. There's just too much. In this game, you're upgrading the suits, which is 4 separate things now. It's health, damage, focus, and traversal. You're updating your 5 different gadgets now from which were in the previous games. And then finally, you're upgrading the perks for both Spider-Men, and then just Peter and just Miles.
Yeah.
And there are so many moves in there. There's so many things going on that it's just like, John and I were talking earlier, and it's like I was talking about one move. I'm like, I never even done this once. And he's like, I'm using it all the time. And then he goes to mention a move that he's not doing. And I'm like, I'm doing that one all the time. Like,
yeah, it's like you only have the ability to keep 5 to 10 move sets in your head at any given time. Figure out which ones work for you. But yeah, it does. Because a lot of the moves are sequence based, right? It's not like it's so you hold triangle, and after you hold triangle, then you hit R1 with this button, and it'll shoot that at this, and then okay, but that's different than if you press triangle and then do R1. Like my son was having a really hard time. One of the things that they did in this game that's new is the ability to create zip line or web lines wherever you want to, right? To kind of sneak around and do that. And he was having a really hard time, getting kind of frustrated because he's like, Dad, this isn't working. And I take the controller and I do it immediately. And he's like, what the heck? And I give it back to him and he can't do it. And I'm like, what is I was like, what is happening? And he was long pressing triangle and you just have to tap it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a long press. It was like kind of like a 1 to 2 second press.
But that probably does something else either later in the game.
Exactly.
Or,
and so, yeah, it does. It kind of, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And since you mentioned it, let's talk about the web lines very briefly because that is amazing. That's another amazing decision is your ability to create basically all your perch spots when you're doing the stealth sections of the game. You can basically perch yourself anywhere. Like you just create a web line and you can cross it and you're like, oh, hey, I want to go over here. You can just create another web line. It joins to your existing web line. And it just works. Like it's just really smart and it gives you just more options to play in these little arenas that they give you when you have to do stealth sections. So definitely a plus there. And then this is a concern I've had with the previous games too, is that the combat gets too hectic. It gets too crazy, especially later in the game. This was a problem in the other games too. Like that fucking rocket launcher guy.
Oh, like he's back.
I fucking hate him.
He's back.
Yeah, you'll be in the middle of combat with all these other guys, and here comes that fucking rocket launcher, and it blows up the screen, and it takes up the screen. It takes you out of whatever you're doing. You're on the ground, and of course he's loading up to do another one, or there's more than one of them, so it's happening again and again. And you
abandon everybody you've been fighting. Be like, where are you, fucker?
Yeah,
where are
I gotta
you?
go take him. And the same thing with like the sniper guys too. Like that, they're just as much of a like just getting in your way of your combo. But then you also introduce like there's flying birds in this, and then the dogs too. And the dogs have the ability to go into ability disable mode, and you can't use your abilities anymore or your gadgets.
Oh,
so it's so you have like all these like factors.
Oh, that Craven.
Yeah, you have all these things happening, and it never feels great because like typically to take a guy out is not even just one combo. It's like a combo to get him on the ground, and then you R1 him to web him there, and that finishes him. But if you either don't have enough web shooters or you move on, he's getting back up and he's back into the fray. So some of these common encounters are just there's too much.
It is funny because I never use my webs when I fight, like ever. And I wonder if I've played so much. The show, Spider-Man, I think I had 220 hours, and Miles, I had 200 hours, and obviously most of it my son. But I wonder if I've gotten so good at the combat that, like, because, at least in the beginning, right, I'm 5% into this game, I'm not getting touched. Like, and I'm not at rocket launches and stuff, but, it has the big, long white line that turns red when you're about to get shot, and I'm really good at dodging at the right time. Right. And, like, my combos are always near 100, but... because I never even thought about, like, oh, if I knock them down, then I can web them and they'll stay there. I was like, never really thought about that. It's weird.
And then I mean, even later, you get like these bigger shielder, like mini boss enemies that join the fray, and it does become it just becomes a lot. And I mean, you are free to use like gadgets like crazy. You have all the abilities now there's new versions of all those. That will really help with all this, but it does. At some points, I just feel like I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah, I think it's definitely probably a part of video game culture that needs to evolve, right? Similarly to how like open world games always kind of have a similar formula. I feel like the ramp up in enemy design is pretty typical for these kind of games, right? Okay, you start with basic, then you add ranged, then you add armored, then you add heavy armored, and then you add ranged heavy, and it just kind of gets to a point where you're like, all right, I'm sick of this. Because I remember even in Cyberpunk, like I hate the hacker guys. It's like, where are you? Stop it! Like I don't even want you here.
Right.
So it's if a game does that, you need to make sure that they have their systems in place well enough to allow you to handle the enemies in an efficient manner, whether it's through your gadgets or abilities and stuff. And so, sounds like it is, but it could have been refined a little bit.
Yeah, and again, this is just a frustration.
For sure.
I'm in love with this game. It's so good. I'm probably gonna have it finished easily by next podcast, but it's still just like, I got to nitpick a little bit.
Of course, nothing's perfect.
Because I do think
Except for Nier Automata.
Like you mentioned Arkham, the Arkham series last week. If this will take it. So Arkham's been in my brain because they share a lot of the same DNA. Kind of the Arkham series ended in 2015, and this has kind of taken the mantle. And a lot of the same ideas that these games are both love letters to their specific superheroes, all the different suits, all the different combat that make you feel really a lot like that character, either Batman or Spider-Man. But I do think I like Batman's combat more than this, because I think this, it gets too hectic and too crazy, and I don't know. I felt like I had a better, I managed it a lot better in Batman as opposed to this. But
yeah,
again,
for me to have an opinion on that, I definitely would have to go back and play those. But the reason I like Spider-Man a lot though is just because and Batman was similar to where he could jump fucking 40 feet across the screen if he needed to hit a guy. But I just like that I'm never out of it, where I'm just like, okay, where's somebody? And I hold triangle and he just zips to him. And I'm just, you just constantly, you can just keep everything stringing together, and it feels very, very, very good.
Yeah. And I think like the combat is at its best the more open it is.
Yeah.
Because then you are swinging around, you're jumping around. I think
grabbing things off the wall, throwing them at people.
Yeah. You're like, when you're on the streets of Manhattan and doing one of those crimes, it's like, wow, this is just crazy. This is how Spider-Man would fight, jumping off a wall, swinging around. It's just like that. But when you're indoors, sometimes it gets just a little much.
Sure.
But
I got some questions for you, unless you got a little bit more.
I have only one more point to talk about.
Do it.
And that is the symbiote. And this was revealed in the trailer. I'm not saying anything that wasn't shown in that gameplay trailer. Is that Peter Parker does get the symbiote. It is awesome. Yeah. Maybe I just leave it at that. It is awesome.
We can. Yeah. We're obviously. I don't know if we'll have a full on talk about this game when we both beat it. I don't know. We have to figure that out. But yeah, you can save probably a little. Yeah, more
because there are specific missions I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do a bonus episode, and we'll just talk the story stuff and the mission specifics, the specifics of the mission, because I can't talk about my favorite mission without spoiling a lot. So we're gonna leave it at that. But I do think what they had to do with the symbiote is obviously, again, that going back to that animation, making it look awesome when you're using those symbiote abilities, but also making Peter feel like what the symbiote does to him, powerful.
Yeah.
And holy crap.
Yeah. Do you always want to be using the symbiote if you can? Yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's probably was the intended response.
Yeah. One of the best things about video games is the power fantasy, and being Spider-Man is pretty powerful, but it's not like raw. It doesn't feel like raw power like Kratos does. But with the symbiote, you do feel like Kratos. Yeah. So it's great that they did that, and it does feel really good.
It's almost probably like a full-on rage mode, like all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's great. I can't wait for you to get it too, John, because I think you'll feel the same.
One day, Nick. One day.
Yeah.
All right, Nick.
Sure.
Who are you playing? What's your percentage breakdown when you have the ability, Miles or Peter? What would you say?
I think as we said last week, it was a lot of Miles, because I wish this was not a Miles and Peter game, but I understand why, because it's a Venom story and you got to have Peter in. I would rather have Miles than any other Spider person at this point.
Sure.
I'm just a little burnt out on Peter Parker.
Sure.
But that being said,
his powers are better.
Once he got the symbiote, to the point where you obviously get the symbiote black suit, and one of the greatest things about this game is all the unlockable suits. It's fucking awesome. All the suits are great.
It's like over 200 variations.
Yeah. Not only do you unlock suits, but you unlock different colors. So if you don't even like how the base suit looks, there's usually a color that I'm like, damn, that fucking looks great. But to the point where once I got the symbiote with Peter, I was just in that suit the whole time. I was like, this just makes story.
There it is.
It just makes this. It matches all the moves you're doing with the symbiote powers, but also just makes story sense that would be the suit you'd have on the whole time.
Okay. You've kind of already answered this one, but is this the greatest superhero game ever made?
I don't know yet. Let me get to the finish line.
Okay. Have you experienced any bugs? Anything of note?
Yes, I have. Again, I don't want to get into the spoilers. There's a side quest in this game that you kind of like teleports you. I've had that teleport not happen, and my guy was just walking forward in this like tunnel that usually the void that usually shoots you, portals you to another area, but he just kept walking and then eventually fell through the floor and through the world and then died at the bottom.
Okay.
When he hit the bottom of the world. So the checkpoint system is very forgiving. It was loaded right there.
Yeah.
I've had a hard crash, and then I had a quest that got stuck.
Okay.
Like I was talking to a lady for one of the normal app phone side quests.
Yeah.
She stopped talking, and I was just standing there in that zoomed in mode when you're talking to people, and it never zoomed out. And I was just like slowly.
What do you
walking.
need, lady?
Yeah, I was slowly walking backwards, and then it was like I'm like, oh, I'm stuck. So I just reload checkpoint, which again brought me right there.
Yeah.
Conversation started again, and then it resumed as normal.
All right.
3 issues so far.
Okay. And then lastly, so I have a couple examples of this, but what tier would you put the story into for Sony properties? Tier 1 being like Last of Us, God of War, Ragnarok. Tier 2 being Ghost of Tsushima. Horizon, I know you're not as high on Horizon, but you know, might put that in Tier 2. And then Tier 3 would be like Ratchet and Clank, Days Gone, that kind of stuff. And I know you haven't finished it yet, but what's your inkling tell you?
I think this is a Tier 1 story. Because, again, I think one of the Insomniac's strengths, again, with this franchise has been the writing and taking on characters that we know already, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I thought the Peter Doc Ock story in Spider-Man 1 was just awesome. Like, what a great way to do the character and his relationship with Peter. And same here. I think this is the relationship between Harry and Peter and the division that causes with Miles. I think this is one of the better video game stories so far. Even if we'll talk about it in the bonus spoiler stuff, is like there's some choices that are just weird. Like there's just some weak motivations for some characters at some points. So,
all right. Well, you got anything? I obviously will need to play a lot more to have more thoughts, but
this will be a reoccurring for sure. I would definitely want. It's one of the big releases of the year.
It's at a 91 on OpenCritic.
Yeah, it's doing very well. That I want to keep bringing it. I definitely want to review it and all that. But the initial impressions, I mean, it's more of a good thing. Like it's just building on everything we've experienced with the last 2 games, and they're masters. Insomniac is one of the best developers in the world, and again, this is just them perfecting everything we've seen over the past, really since Sunset Overdrive, but, definitely the last 5 years of output from them.
You're going to be a mess when Wolverine starts coming out. You're going to be...
Oh, I know. Funny. That's a good point, because our next topic, I wanted to bring up kind of all of the big console makers have just popped off. Sony with Spider-Man 2, Nintendo with Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which somehow beat Spider-Man 2. It's at a 92.
It's Mario, dude.
And then Xbox just had Starfield, the Apex RPG from Bethesda Studios. But kind of just, this is going to be a lot of conjecture because it's a lot of stuff we don't know. But I wanted to know, what's their next big game? Like, what's going to be the next big game from each of these studios that is going to be on the level of a Starfield, a Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and Spider-Man 2? Preferably next year. I'm sure that they all have plans to have a game like that next year. But, let's just put on our prediction caps and see what we can do. Is there a particular...
No, well... Let's just do Sony because this is, primarily PlayStation focused. When I was thinking about this, there's a couple huge studios that haven't had anything out in a while, right? And Naughty Dog is kind of at the tip top of that list. So initially, that's kind of what I immediately thought of. However, with the kerfuffle that's happened with factions, and that seemingly it seems like it should have been out at this point, if not early next year. That would lead me to think that they're probably going to get leapfrogged by somebody. I don't think it's Insomniac. I think Wolverine's still going to be probably 2 Sony first-party games away, if not 3. But that leaves me with 2 other studios I think that might be ready to go, and that's Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima 2 and whatever Blue Point's working on. Okay. And I don't know, obviously, what that's going to be. There was rumors that would be for the first time doing their own thing, not remaking something, which could be reason why it's taking a little bit longer, because they do typically run on a quicker cycle. They did Shadow of the Colossus in 2018, Demon Souls in 2020, and I believe they had a couple games come out 2 years before Shadow of the Colossus, or it might have been like Uncharted Legacy of Thieves or something like that. So I think they're ready to go too. Everybody else I think is a little bit farther away, but if I'm going to put my cap on one, I'm going to say Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be a summary release next year. Yes.
So you think that'll be their next big game?
I mean, we're still waiting for that big blowout of what the single player Sony games are coming, and I think everybody's going to be ready to go. The release cycles from announcement to release is much shorter now, so I think having something here within the next couple months, type of showcase saying, hey, Ghost of Tsushima's 2 is real and it's here this summer. That's going to be my guess.
We do have the Game Awards coming, so there's definitely room for an announcement of what, like I said, it's the only thing we know about is Marvel's Wolverine, and I'm assuming you don't think any of the next big live service games will be the next big thing.
No, I don't think so.
And I don't even know if they'll be out next year.
They're internally, I think, really trying to figure some shit out. These games take a little bit longer to make in general, and then if you're bringing Bungie in to kind of evaluate, looking at long-term plans, I think, and you got one shot with these things, right? If you want these to be cash cows, it would behoove you to take the time and make sure that they're absolutely perfect. Otherwise, it's never going to matter.
Yeah, and I just want to specify we're talking first-party games here because, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will definitely be a big game for Sony next year, but I just want to focus on first-party. And I noticed you didn't say anything about Sony Bend. Is this because they will not be making a game that we would consider their big game? Or
if I'm being honest, yes. Sony Bend is a weird one for me because I was never into Siphon Filter. I never played Days Gone. I never played the Uncharted Golden Abyss. And all I can ever, when I think of them, I think of how long it took them to release. It takes them to release games. So
what if their next project is, because we believe an Uncharted game is coming, but not from Naughty Dog. If they're taking up the mantle for whatever the next Uncharted is, whether it's Uncharted 5 or a Lost Legacy or something.
Yeah. That's a really good guess. Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense because there was that one weird little shot that they had of a random Tomb Explorer in one of their spoiler or sizzle reel things.
Yeah.
So that, while never confirmed or talked about from Sony, is the only other existence of something in the wild from an unannounced game. So I mean, that would be some good thought by you, my friend.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, this Sony Santa Monica God of War Half Step.
Yeah.
Any chance that could be the next big game?
I don't think so. I don't. That's some Insomniac level turnaround time right there. No, I don't. I think that would be saved for a little maybe next fall type thing. It's not. I don't know if they would want to. It's hard to say because God of War is so fucking awesome and revered. But would you want to tent pole yourself under one of these smaller games? I don't know. I think
the point of these smaller games is the quicker turnaround.
For sure,
to get more projects out with existing assets and make overall game development easier and cheaper. But
I think if the Ragnarok Half Step were to be the next game, I think you could say that Sony somehow has a weird studio management problem because you still have so many other teams that haven't released anything in a while that, it'd be great, But then what are your other teams doing? If Insomniac is churning them out like this, if Sony Santa Monica can seemingly do the same thing, like what's up? So, because that would be the idea, I would think, is when you have these, a 20-team portfolio or whatever, however many they have. I think they have, 14, 15, something like that. They help each other. They work with each other. They figure it out so that they can all, rising tide sinks all. Nope, that's not it. A rising tide lifts all boats, not sinks all boats. Yeah, it'd be weird, but maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think your Bend idea with Uncharted that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm good. It's so hard to say, but
yeah, Naughty Dog's been talking about they're working on something else too besides factions and
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's so hard to say. And with all these predictions, it's like I don't know. No. Everyone keeps their cards so close now that you just don't know, and we're just.
I think it's safe to say Sucker Punch is working on Ghost 2.
Yeah, Sucker Punch and Sony Bend, I think, are the big one. I think any other developer, it's going to be way too soon. And I mean, a God of War Half Step would be a huge game. Like I think.
What about if Housemarque returned back to their weird little arcadey roots and release something?
I don't think we would consider it a big game though.
No, it wouldn't like the. I mean, shit, man. Returnal wasn't even that big, and that game's awesome.
So yeah, I think we're gonna Ghost of Tsushima sequel or an Uncharted sequel is definitely high on our list for the next Sony big game. All right, who do you want to do next?
Microsoft.
Oh boy,
you go first time.
Boy, where to begin with Microsoft? Again, we have talked a lot about their litany of not releasing games, and their response to having kind of a poor release schedule was basically say every game that they've ever made that's coming. Like I don't think there's a single game that we don't know they're working on, whether it be Outer Worlds 2, Hellblade 2, Elder Scrolls 6.
Contraband, Avowed, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the Clockwork Revolution, Fable. It's just Perfect Dark.
God, it is pretty weird.
There's so many, and they did the same thing earlier this year too with South of Midnight and that Clockwork Revolution, and they State of Decay 3, and it's just I don't know. They have so many studios
Gears,
now.
I'm sure Gears, whatever.
Yeah, Gears, maybe a Halo project. Who knows? They're just they vomited out everything they're working on. So it is kind of hard to go well, what would be the next thing, the next big thing? And I'm thinking it probably is the Outer Worlds 2. It's been long enough since that game, the first game released,
do you think
I'm doubting myself because Starfield just came out. Would the next big game be another spacefaring RPG?
Well, and the other side of that too is Obsidian's also working on another game, Avowed.
Yeah.
Which
that's true too.
Which is kind of the one I have.
Okay.
Of being, I have two. I always got to hedge my bets. But yeah, I mean, that's the question. Do you think Outer Worlds 2, being a existing property that they can use assets for, that they can probably have a quicker development cycle ahead of Avowed, but Avowed was announced first.
Right.
What's that look like?
You're right. You dissuade me. Yeah, the Outer Worlds 2 is not.
Yes.
It's Avowed. Yeah, you're right. Avowed. Well, at least that game will come before Outer Worlds 2.
I would think so.
Because of Starfield.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense to me. They announced Avowed a couple years ago now. I mean, they've started showing off other parts of it. It seems, from what I understand about the project, is it's not Skyrim. It's not going to be as crazy huge as that. It's more like how the Outer Worlds is to Fallout, how Avowed will be to Skyrim. So it's going to be smaller scale, a little more dense, a little more probably narrative, dialogue based. So I could see them getting that out.
Yeah, and we saw that this summer, and it looked a lot further along. We actually saw the game being played, and a lot of these games definitely cannot say that. I would love to think Fable's the next big game, but we didn't see very much of it, and it's only been 2 years since they finished Forza Horizon. 5. So.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that I think could beat Avowed to the starting line would be Hellblade 2. I mean, just in the sense that it's been announced for so long. It was one of the very first announced next-gen titles.
Yeah.
It looked to be pretty far along when they showed it off with that huge, giant-looking creature.
Right.
Thing I think about Hellblade, though, is that it's not going to be a big game. Like, even if they position it as that, it's not going to be. It's a art piece, right? It's great. I played the first one. I thought it was amazing. I thought the headphone interaction type thing was really, really cool. But it's not going to light the world on fire. It doesn't have a long tail. It's going to come out. It's going to be on Game Pass. It's going to sell not very many copies, and then then it'll be gone. So.
Yeah, and it's Ninja Theory, which nothing against Ninja Theory, but they've never. This has kind of been their only hit. Was the first game.
Did you play the first one?
No.
Oh, okay. You would like it.
It was kind of their only by hit I probably just mean critical hit. I don't know how well it sold, but their previous games have not sold, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, the scale that this game looks in that demo that you mentioned.
Oh, that's right. They did DMC.
Yeah.
I like that game actually.
I do too. I think they got the shaft on. Yeah. Fans not letting someone else touch their
video
game
fans
Dante.
Being sensitive. Ooh. All right, and then Nintendo. So I'll go with this one.
So Nintendo, the only 2 games I know that are announced is Princess Peach Showtime and Metroid Prime 4. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't think they have anything that's not a remake, an HD remake of a previous game.
No. I mean, their announcements have all been remakes and stuff because the Switch 2 is getting ramped up. So.
Oh, so you believe the Switch 2 is going to be out next year?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at that point, it's.
Yeah. So the next big game is going to be a launch title for the Switch 2, I would assume.
Maybe, unless Princess. I mean, I would imagine Princess Peach is going to come out in January, February. It'll be.
I think it has a release date.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's early next year.
And quite honestly, man, I don't know if I consider Princess Peach Showtime to be in this level of conversation. It's a Yoshi's Crafted World. It's a Kirby, so. Yeah, I think it'll be Metroid Prime 4 with the release of the new console. I mean, especially with the Activision Blizzard deal going through, they've said that Call of Duty will have parity on Nintendo, and I'm sorry, you're not getting parity on the old Switch, so they gotta get that shit out quickly. But yeah, so I think Metroid Prime 4. But if it wasn't for Super Mario Wonder, I probably would have said we're getting a 3D Mario game next year. It's been it'll be 7 years next year since Odyssey, and. That's more than enough time, but Wonder was such a hit and seems to be so good that maybe they say, well, we can let it cook for a little bit longer. I don't know.
Sure. But do you know how they really would sell the Switch 2?
Pokemon.
No. And the Pokemon games, geez.
Yeah, and we're not considering those. Not considering those.
Yeah, I don't consider. I mean, they're big games as far as sales and whatnot, but I don't think they'd be they're not critically like a Super Mario Brothers Wonder or Tears of the Kingdom level, but. I think if you want to go big, you go to one of your best-selling franchises of all time.
Animal Crossing.
No. Well, that's a good answer, too.
That is a good answer, actually.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 was the last Animal Crossing.
Fire Emblem.
No.
Okay.
You go Mario Kart. It's time.
Is it time?
It's time. They've been supporting Mario Kart. Is it 8?
Yeah.
For so long.
I think it's 11 years.
Yeah, for over 2 console generations already. It's time to really wow people, get that next generation of tracks and design and characters, and start that content drip again. And it's with a Mario Kart.
Hot take: Mario Kart sucks.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
I know.
But I believe the next big game.
No, that's a great guess.
If a Mario Kart, like you said, I would instantly go to some kind of Mario Odyssey successor. But with Super Mario Brothers Wonder out, it's time to go. It's time.
We're gonna do a live little trivia question, Nick. How many copies has Mario Kart 8 sold?
It's probably up there with the Grand Theft Auto 5s. Probably maybe has crossed 100 million, but I'm going to say hasn't gotten there yet.
Nah, hasn't quite got. Man, I'm having a hard time talking today. Hasn't quite gotten there yet. It's at 64 million.
Okay,
which is still bananas.
Yeah. So, I think that would be the smart move. They've been, like I said, they're supporting Mario Kart. It's a big franchise, as John just really pointed out. And I think if you want to sell a new platform, as much as I love the Metroid Prime series, Metroid as a series is just not the system seller. It's you gotta go big, and I think Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart 8 is the number one Nintendo Switch at 55 million. Animal Crossing number 2 at 43 million, and then Smash Ultimate at 32. So like it dwarfs more. It's more than twice the amount of Super Mario Odyssey, about twice as much as Breath of the Wild. It's crazy.
Yeah. So there you have it. Again, we don't have any insider information. This is just what we feel in our balls. This is John likes to say.
My loins.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we're right. But again, this was a total shot in the dark and just a fun thing to think about.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. Back to the character battle royale.
We're battling.
We are battling.
We're battling.
Again, if you want to vote on this, please follow us on Twitter at PSPalsPod or email in at PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com. Any of those things will get you a vote in our current video game character battle royale. And not shocking, the winners of last week were Dante, beating out Sam Porter Bridges.
Shocker. Good restraint, Will, for not voting for Sam Porter Bridges.
Yeah,
good restraint.
Not voting at all,
or maybe not voting at all,
because I don't think he didn't get any votes. And then Solid Snake defeating Bayonetta, who did also
wouldn't happen, but that's fine. I'll allow it.
You never know. Anything can happen on the battlefield, John. Even love.
It's true.
So
even love, what?
That's the question from Metal Gear Solid. Can love bloom even on a battlefield?
Oh well, sorry, I didn't know that.
I'm asking you. Can love bloom even on a battlefield? Can you fall in love?
I don't think so. No, I think you're trying to survive and not die.
Well, Otacon would say otherwise.
Sure. Oh, Otacon.
All right, John. So we're moving back into the current bouts for today. Mm-hmm. We got Banjo-Kazooie facing off against Monokuma, and we have Mario of Mario Kart facing Shovel Knight. And I believe I am going first this time. So which matchup do you want to do first?
You dealer's choice. You're going first. You choose.
All right, let's get the easy one out of the way. Mario versus Shovel Knight.
Oh, do you hear that? You hear that? Man, I can't think today. Optimism, whatever.
All right.
I will start the timer when you start talking.
Mario, one of the most iconic characters in all of gaming. I mean, his list of abilities, because he's been in so many games, is too long to count. You know what they are. Suit changes, fireballs, star powers. He's got it all. Shovel Knight will be way too overwhelmed with all of these abilities. And speaking of all those games, like how many people has Mario faced off against in his career that spans the last 30 years? A lot of guys, a lot of enemies, a lot of bosses, a lot of characters who think they can take him out, all lost. He's won every game. There's not a game he's lost at the end. He's a kart racer, a Smash contestant, and just an overall a pillar of video games. He ain't losing to Shovel Knight.
Not the Shovel Knight? All right. Let's go back to my timer. Why can't I go back to my timer? All right. You know, Nick, you mentioned all of the fights that Mario's won, but I think there's this little Goomba from the stage 1-1 that's killed Mario about 26 million times. They figured out that this little guy has killed Mario more than any other character in history has killed a video game character, and he lost to a little mushroom man? I don't know about that, man. Yeah, Fire Mario, sure, he can throw lightning, or he can throw fireballs at me, but I have a shovel. I'll hit him right back at you. That's part of my gimmick. And let's not just forget, Nick, we're fighting here. This doesn't mean that Mario gets to surround himself with mushrooms and flowers and warp stars. We're on a battlefield. We're going head to head. So we're taking a little plumber versus an armed knight with a weapon. I don't think there's anything that really you're going to be able to do if you can't have access to your Tanuki suits and your fire suits and your freeze suits and your drill suits and your cloud suits, right? That's all. He's a one-trick pony. He just needs help from somebody else to make sure that he can do what he needs to do. You know, I'm going to dig a grave, man. I'm going to dig a grave. I'm going to throw Mario in it. or Shovel Knight is, and he's gonna, bury him with his shovel. All right.
Okay.
Monokuma versus Banjo-Kazooie.
Before we do this one, are you familiar with Banjo and Kazooie at all?
Not really. Are you?
No.
Okay, good.
No, so this is out of left field. And I was a Nintendo 64 kid. Like, I had one.
Yeah.
So I probably played it, but I don't think I ever got into it. So
I mean, it's basically a collect-a-thon Spyro the Dragon type game, right?
Yeah, it's in the same vein of
Okay.
those type. The Mario 64s, the Conker. What was the Donkey Kong 64? A lot of those games are very similar, but for some reason he has some weird cult following. People were pretty excited about him appearing in Smash Brothers.
That was just an era of video games where we all were. Everything was nostalgic, right?
Yeah.
So that's not surprising, but no, I've never played them. So, all right, I gotta defend. Yeah, I gotta go to battle for Monokuma here.
Well, I thought I'd go first.
Oh, well, I mean, you went first with the last round. I mean,
that's how we did it last week.
Okay, well, you do you, my dude. You do you. I'll just get more ammunition when you say things.
Okay.
All right, and I'll go when you talk.
All right. Instantly, Banjo and Kazooie is a 2-versus-1. That you're facing two people at once. You're facing a bear and a bird, and I don't even have to explain the deadliness of a bear to another bear, but. But you have a bird, and the bird is the tricky part because he's the one firing all the different eggs with different abilities, including a clockwork egg, a golden egg, a proximity egg, a battery egg, and they either blow up or shock or do any kind of damage to the opponent. Again, this is another character that is in Super Smash Brothers. He has an experience against all kinds of different opponents. And speaking of Monokuma doesn't really get his hands dirty until a bunch of high school kids tell him that this is the guilty party. Then he finally gets his hands dirty. He doesn't do anything until that happens, So if he's facing a guy one-on-one and that guy's ready for him, Monokuma is not.
Boom. All right.
Yeah, also in the same vein, does anyone know Monokuma listening?
Nope, that's why I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time here. All right, Monokuma is a vicious teddy bear from the Danganronpa series, but if you look up a picture of him, folks, you will see he's got it-shaped teeth, right? He smiles, he's going to bite the shit out of you. You mentioned he's a bear too, Nick, but he's a fucking psychopathic killer bear. Do you know what kind of bear Banjo is? He's a honey bear. You know what else is a honey bear? Winnie the Pooh. So that's the level that we're talking about here, okay? He's a master of stealth. Monokuma repeatedly in this game, he'll just show up out of nowhere, so he's going to be able to sneak up on anybody. Going back to his teeth, he'll just bite fucking that bird's dumb little neck, rip his head off with those scary, scary teeth. And he's ruthless. He's made for battle royales, Nick. That's what Danganronpa is. It's a battle royale game where you have all these kids, you make them fight each other. He's a master of coming up with crazy scenarios to kill people, whether it's throwing 1,000 baseballs at a kid just because he's a baseball player and he finds it funny. He's a psychopath. And Banjo is gullible, lazy, unless if he's forced to go on an adventure. And apparently Kazooie's a hothead piece of shit. So I'm just going to throw that out there, too. All right.
Well, there you have it.
Monokuma. All right. So everybody, go out there, vote. Nick, I'm sure you'll put a Twitter poll out there again.
Yep. Again, at PS Pals Pod.
And we've only split, and we've split every single time. So let's see if Nick can get a sweep or if I can get a sweep.
Yeah, the Banjo-Kazooie Monokuma one can go either direction. That's for sure.
Well, that's the whole point, right? Have these silly little battles. But all right, well, actually, that was a good time to go into next week.
Here we go.
All right. You want first or second? I know you always say first, but I got to ask every time.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Who's going to fight on Halloween?
No. Fox. Star Fox.
Fox from Star Fox. More Nintendo characters.
That's right. All right. Versus Hollow Knight. Fox versus Hollow Knight.
Uh-oh.
And then for matchup number 2, I'm glad I got Hollow Knight. I love him. Nick will be championing. Ooh, Cloud. That's a good one.
There's
a good one.
I
Cloud.
I like that.
What's Soldier? He's a soldier.
Yes.
Cloud versus, I hope it's Master Chief. 2B.
Oh no.
All right. I will be such a sad panda.
Well,
Cloud is such a bigger character. All right.
Well, kudos to you. You got two characters that you are personally very attached to.
I'm very invested in them. Yes.
So.
I'm so happy I got 2B though. All right. Cool.
All right.
And 2B and Cloud they got similar skill sets. We'll say that. Kind of very Bayonetta and Dante-esque.
Sure.
All right, Nick. Well, last thing here, just to round out the podcast, I've been playing a little bit of a game that I just wanted to talk about for a little bit because it feels bad to, with the limited amount of time I have playing games, to have played a game for a little bit and not talk about it on the show.
Sure.
And that game is Cult of the Lamb, which is a 2022 released roguelike game from Massive Monster and published by Devolver Digital. Has an 84% on OpenCritic. And this game has kind of been on my radar since its very first reveal. I think it hit the ground running pretty hard with the reveal at Gamescom in 2021, where you had an immediate unique art style with cutesy characters and then sacrifice and Satan and blood and all this other crazy stuff. So naturally, I'm interested off the get-go. But then you kind of heard a little bit that it's also like a management sim game, and that kind of piqued my interest because I'm always curious when they mash two genres together. But just to give everybody a quick little synopsis, it's a roguelike dungeon crawler that's combined with a management sim. You get action elements where you're kind of going into a run where you kind of got to go through 5 or 6 different worlds that have 9 little rooms connected to it, and then you fight a boss at the end. You do that enough times, and you basically beat the game. But in between every time you do a run, you're going back to your cult. Whether you've converted a follower on your run-through, you bring him back to your home base, you enlist him to do one of a couple different things. You can either have a cult member farm you rocks, farm you lumber, or pray to your idol, which obviously is going to allow you to get different abilities as you continuously get more cult members, level up different things, increase the amount of things that you're able to build in your camp, which creates obviously a fun little loop. So you're monitoring your cult on 3 different aspects: their hunger, their sickness, and their faith. 2 of those are very easy to manage, right? Hunger, sickness. You make sure there's no shit anywhere. You literally clean up poop on your camp. You make sure that nobody's throwing up, and they're going to be not sick, and you're good. Hunger, same thing. You can build eventually a little pot thing that you can cook dinner for people, and you throw it out there, and they all eat it, and they're all happy. But then you also can go into your temple, and you can have sermons. You can have different little ways to get people's faith built up. You can go up to them individually and pray to them, which increases all their faith. And you just want to make sure that all those meters are full at all times, right? Sure. Nothing crazy on that front. But I didn't finish this game for a reason, right? And so I'm gonna go through a couple positives and then just talk a little bit more about the negatives. Again, keeping this short and sweet. I think the combat's great. I think it's very responsive. It's very fluid. It's that quick. You hit the dodge, the guy dodges. You hit the attack, he's gonna attack immediately. Feels fluid, feels good. You go into a run, you're gonna get equipped with either probably a little dagger that does a little bit of damage, but you attack really fast, or you get a big hammer that does obvious things. And you additionally have a special ability move as well that recharges itself based on the amount, drops from the enemies that you kill. And it's good combat. It's fun. I have nothing bad to say about that. Aesthetic, as I mentioned earlier, is very charming. It's very silly. It's a hard thing to do to combine sacrificing, little cutesy animal people and feel good about it, but this game definitely manages to do that. It's all very cute. Even when you sacrifice, yay! And then they all, just impale themselves with a knife. Very weird stuff. But what I think where I think the game kind of starts to fall flat is, I think this is unfortunately one of those examples of probably should have stuck to one genre. Again, I think the combat and going in and doing the roguelike elements is a lot of fun, but it fell short in a lot of ways. There's not a ton of abilities you're getting. You're kind of getting 1 or 2 weapons. You go through, you go ha 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 ha. You beat everybody up, but then once you beat everybody up, each room is kind of, it's littered with different grass and boxes and things, and part of the management sim is to collect this stuff to use towards the buildings. And so you're inevitably having to go through, okay, now I got to hit my sword on every piece of grass. Okay, cool, I got 4 grass. And you go to the next thing and you do it again. And it just kind of gets old. And I don't really have a fancy way to say that besides it just kind of gets old having to do that every time.
Have you ever gotten into other management games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley?
A little bit. There's a game called Moonlighter. I don't know if you know that game. It came out a couple years ago where it kind of had this twofold thing as well, where you're a shopkeep during the day where you sell things that you collect at night during raids. Mm-hmm. And that was a very satisfying loop, and I can't really from memory tell you why that one's more satisfying than this one. All I can tell you is that one of the reasons this one gets to me is because it tries to throw too much at you at one time, where actually, let me take a step back. One of the things that it does that I don't like is you spend all this time keeping your meters high, right? You're making everybody happy, which is kind of tedious in itself because the main way to keep faith up, like I mentioned, is praying to everybody. So you have to go around everybody and pray to them, which is just kind of tedious. But when you go out to a fight, you go on your run, time doesn't stop. And what that does is that lowers their hunger, it lowers their sickness, it lowers their faith to a point where you come back and the place is covered in filth, everybody's mad at you, and you have to then just spend all this time either cleaning up dead bodies because people have died. Dead bodies make people sick. If you then don't go to your building spot and build a grave to bury the body, people are going to continue to get sick. So you just kind of constantly feel like you're treading water and never
spinning plates,
never gaining anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I play games, is to feel like I'm gaining stuff, and I think eventually you do, because there is a pretty robust system with the building, right, where you can build a simple grave, or you can build a crypt which can hold more, or you can then upgrade that into a mausoleum which holds more, and there's a lot there with that aspect of it. But I found myself after about 10 to 15 hours just kind of going like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I got up to 18 cult members, the max is 20. And then at that point, it just started to I would come back. Everybody's pissed off at me. I go, I'm sorry. And you spend all this time kind of getting everybody happy again. And then you go, well, I got to go do it again. And they're going to come back and they're all going to be mad. And
it's
while
the loop. It's the loop that's getting
it's not a very great loop. And again, because you can assign everybody, and maybe I didn't tweak it enough where it's like, okay, I got 6 members harvesting rocks for me, and I got 4 members doing trees, and then I got 5 guys praying to me, and maybe I didn't have the right combination because you have to build different buildings that allow you to get those resources. It's not found organically. It's a small little camp. So you have to use resources to make a resource to get you more resource. But you can only assign 1 cult member to that building. So then 90% of my guys are just praying it all the time.
Right.
And again, I think you're picking up what I'm laying down. Yeah. It's just, I wanted to like it a lot more than I did. I didn't hate my time with it, but this is definitely a game I would highly recommend if it comes to extra. It's a game that, if it comes to extra, give it a shot. Yeah, check it out. But I don't think you need to really spend much more on it. And for that, I give it a 3 out of 5 on the PlayStation Pal scale.
Good. All right. So yeah, it's just okay.
It's just okay. I don't regret buying it, playing it, but I don't think I'll be.
It's a popular genre to have that, that management / dungeon diving. That's.
Yeah, like I said, dude, if you look up Moonlighter, it's like the exact same kind of thing, but maybe it's just the simple fact that I didn't have this extra thing where I'm worried about that if everybody's fucking happy or not. It's just I'll give you your food and I'll clean up your mess. Just understand, I'm going out to quest for you.
Right.
I'm gonna come back. It's all gonna be fine. So, but one thing I did want to mention that I didn't think I was going to care about, but all of a sudden I did. When you bring people back to your camp, you get to name them. And so at first I named them all the people at work, which was hilarious because then it'd be like, oh, Josh died. And it's like, oh no, Josh. And then after that got boring, I just started naming them all after my favorite pop culture characters. So I had Walter White and 2B. And it really added this weird sense of no, not Walter. You can't die, which I fully didn't expect to happen, but it kind of added a little funny thing for me. So maybe going forward, I'll try and lean into that a little more with these kind of games if you have that ability. But Yeah, because it was a very sad day when 2B died.
Oh, I'm sure.
In fact, that might have been what caused me to fuck this game. But that's all I got for Call to the Lamb.
All right, so and you're done. You're not going back.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So wrapping up, we have another superhero game to talk about because before Spider-Man 2 came out, Gotham Knights came to PlayStation Plus Extra, and as a fan of the Arkham series, of Batman in general, I decided to check it out. And this game came out last year, and if you remember, the lead up to this was we're not the Avengers game. We're not that game. We're not a live service game. We're not going to have all the bells and whistles of that. This is coming from Warner Brothers Montreal, who made Batman Arkham Origins. That's what they were saying. The game comes out. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. It did not review well. It is at a 68. So it's, it's not great. And again, just like the Avengers wanted to be the superhero Destiny game, this also wanted to be the DC version of Avengers and be a Destiny game. That means numbered loot, colored loot, lots of numbers. That means end game raids, dragged out boss fights. You kind of play. Here's kind of the premise: is that Batman has died, and the Gotham Knights, as they're called, Red Hood, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Robin, kind of come together to figure out what happened. And then this involves a very popular Batman story called The Court of Owls, and they're a big part of this. But those four characters, just like any other live service game, are a bunch of just classes. Yeah. Batgirl's the gadget / healer. Red Hood's like the damage dealer. Nightwing's like the melee guy. They just all kind of fit an archetype.
And Robin's the all-around, I bet.
Yeah, they all kind of fit an archetype. Nobody likes Robin. He's got to easily be the least picked character. And so that's kind of it. You have an open world in this. You explore it. You stop crimes just like Spider-Man, like that. All that stuff's in there. They're just generic, rinse and repeat. You'll probably do the same one a bunch of times. And then you eventually can go do story missions, which will take you inside buildings. And that's kind of the more traditional Arkham combat that we're used to. A lot of stealth, a lot of hanging out on perches and stuff like that. And it does have an interesting gameplay loop in which you're doing upgrades, you're changing gear during the day, you're moving the plot forward. They have their own little cork board that they're trying to figure out the mystery, and then you go out at night, just kind of like Batman would, and then at the end of the night, you're kind of given all your stats, like how many crimes did you stop, how many people did you save, how many cops did you save, and that's kind of a cool little like loop there that they got going, but this is no Spider-Man, and it's not an Arkham game either. It's very clunky. Traversing the world sucks. Like you do get better traversal abilities later in the game. It's very similar to Spider-Man. You do certain quests and you unlock fast travel to certain boroughs. But just riding around on your bat cycle and just flying around, it just doesn't feel good. It's slow. It's clunky. And the world is not interesting enough to be like, oh, I'm driving from point A to point B. This is nice. It's like, ugh, This game's running poorly. The city's barren. There's like a car on every street, and this is, Gotham City. Yeah. It's supposed to be like this iconic location. And yeah, they just never kind of fully realized their vision for this. And like I said, they were 100% making a Destiny game. Like,
this is next gen only? What the hell?
Yeah. And I think that was because they probably couldn't get it to run very well on previous consoles, so they kind of just wiped their hands clean of that, and I'm sure they wanted to, but
smart. Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, when I look at this game in multiple fronts, it just seems like the game that time forgot. Like, it seems old. Like, I'm looking at it, locked at 30 frames, Unreal Engine 4, old systems, and it doesn't look particularly good. It just seems dated. Like, it seemed immediately dated when it came out.
Oh, I'm sure it's been in, so Warner Brothers Montreal was working on a Suicide Squad game. It was teased in Arkham Origins. Jason Schreier did a big report about how that game got canceled. I don't know. I don't know if that is the game that Rocksteady is currently working on or if that game got scrapped completely. But whatever it was, they picked up the pieces of this. They started this game. And again, it's probably been in development hell too, which is why it took so long to come out. And like John said, it's just it's there. Other reviewers feel the same way. And it's not the worst thing. Again, it's an Arkham game. It's it feels good to stealthily take out a room of guys. Mm-hmm. And this also has, just like Spider-Man, a great set of costumes that you get when you unlock new loot and stuff. But it's no Spider-Man, and it's again, it's not even a good Batman game. So I'll probably finish it though because I want to see it through.
Wow.
But
okay.
But no review.
There's the difference in us, folks. Nick has time to play Gotham Knights, and I can't even get more than 5% in Spider-Man.
Well, my plan for the year is finish Spider-Man, Gotham Knights, Alan Wake 2 if it reviews well, and then Baldur's Gate 3. I got to get through Baldur's Gate 3. That is my plan.
I like that you put Gotham Knights ahead of Baldur's Gate 3.
No, I'll hopefully get back to that game, but
no, it's fine.
I didn't want to jump.
Piece of shit. It's fine.
I didn't want to jump back into Baldur's Gate 3 right before Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
It was going to rip me from it. So,
for sure.
So this was kind of the stopgap game. But,
understandable.
But yeah, so that's kind of my plan, and that's I got more than 2 months to kind of do that all. So hopefully I can, unless there's some surprises coming, but we'll see.
There's not. Cool.
But yeah. So that's it. Yeah, you got any teases? It's just Spider-Man 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am feeling bad about Cyberpunk right now, but I can't not it's. We're gonna have a segment on the show that's gonna be the death of John's gaming life at some point soon, but no, it's Spider-Man 2 for me all the way. Okay, yeah, even with your son playing it, you still just really want to play it. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to you obviously about this earlier, but he's loving it, of course. But a lot of the themes and story beats of Spider-Man 2 are just inherently more mature, and that's kind of losing him a little bit. He loves it when he gets to swing around and fight guys, but like yesterday, he played for a couple hours, and he's like, "Dad, can we play Neon White?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure," because he still loves that. There's a chink in the armor. Yeah. So no, he's a little 6-year-old kid, so he doesn't know what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, he's spoiling some parts for me, but it's not like I'm literally sitting next to him on my phone, kind of like trying to like make white noise in my ear so I don't hear the game. Like, right. It's definitely a more mature story and not just the Sinister Six coming and like all these villains coming at Spider-Man. Yeah, so. He loves the big set pieces, but there's like early on, obviously there's this isn't a spoiler, but you're gonna have Peter Parker MJ romance stuff, right? Like that just is there. You're gonna have Miles growing up stuff, and so that stuff is losing him a little bit, but sure, understandable. But yeah, I'm all in for sure. But by next week's podcast, we will have the reviews for Alan Wake 2, so we can finally decide we know what 4 of them are going to be already, but the 6 Game of the Year nominees at the Game Awards, I think it's safe to say it's Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Tears of the Kingdom, and Baldur's Gate 3 are locks. Wow, what a year. What a year. So we will have to decide, unless John doesn't think any of those games are locks, which he's crazy. No, you're right. You got it. The final 2 will be interesting. And like I said, if Alan Wake can continue this great year of gaming and be a 90 and 91, 90 and above, it might make its case. Yeah, I mean, I think the remainders is between Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Starfield, Sea of Stars, potentially Alan Wake, Street Fighter, Diablo 4, and Final Fantasy. Yep. That was just off the top of my head. Yeah. So, and again, these are voted on by outlets, so probably the more popular games rise to the top. So everyone's going to be playing the Nintendo titles. So Nintendo is going to have 2 Game of the Year nominees easily. Yeah. And everyone else will be fighting. I don't think there's a chance. You didn't mention Jedi Survivor or Hogwarts Legacy, but no, I don't think so. But it's I think as much as I really like those games, they're gonna have a hard time in this bombastic year of games. Any other year, man. Yeah, they should have came out. What was the year? I mean, this is no shade to It Takes Two, but like the year that game won Game of the Year was like It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Returnal. Was that 2021? I don't know.
It was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021.
Okay.
So yeah, it was Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. But yeah, a weak year.
Yeah, that could have
of video games.
Dang it, I'm right here. Hold on. Hang tight. No, it's not. I'm not gonna get there.
Yeah, it was a weak year.
And they didn't even nominate Forza Horizon 5 that year. Deathloop. Yeah. Tales of Arise, maybe?
Yeah, you're probably right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I digress.
Yeah, so we'll kind of discuss that, and we're gonna get closer and closer to the Game Awards, and I think it's gonna be like, as we just talked about, the next big game is like, I don't know what's coming out next year, but the Game Awards will probably be our window into that. So hopefully, it pops off like they did last year, but that's it. That's kind of it, and we'll just kind of Spider-Man 2.
We must return to New York City.
Yeah. There's people needing saving.
Yeah.
All right, so the song we're leaving you on, shocking, is from Marvel Spider-Man 2, and John, you found this song, so I'll let you.
I don't know who does it. I know it's called Swing.
Yep.
From it's the song that plays in the very beginning when you're suiting up with Miles and Peter together and you're just ready to fucking take on the world, and you see Sandman and you're like, yeah, let's go. And it's hip hoppy because you got Miles there, but it's also like superhero. It's
yes, it is called again.
You're gonna be bouncing your head.
Yes, it is called Swing, and it's by Earth Gang and Benji, and it is out on all streaming services. All right. All right, so that's it. We'll be back next week with Bye. Enjoy Spider-Man.
See you guys.
Say the day with a flick of the wrist. Work together, give each other assists. You don't see me coming, I'm a plot twist. Senses are tingling, we find a villain and get the tag team and them leave if they take it for what I'm believing in. I know my destiny greater than this. We got a bond that no evil can break forever, my bro. At the end of the day, this bigger than us, we got too much at stake. I'm good by myself, but together we great. Putting my life on the line for the citizens. See all the angles I'm weaving and pivoting. Then I'm drop kicking a criminal idiot. I recognize the playground that the city is. Feel like a jungle drum, feel like I'm juggling. Sky full of turbulence, street keep on rumbling. But I ain't worried about nothing as long as it's me and my buddy. We ain't gonna be struggling. You take the left and I take the right. We taking the chances and rolling the dice. Sticking with you like your uncle's advice. Trusting my instincts, I'm not thinking twice. I know my enemy's not gonna play nice, so I'ma give it my all every time. Let go of fear, it's just all in your mind. Surprise what you find if you just look inside. Carpe the diem, now you on the night, but you gotta decide to fight or to fly. You doing what's right, it's bigger than pride. Really no limit with friends by your side. My senses bouncing off a wall, evil lurking every day. Yeah, I don't ever need to call, I can feel it right away. Slim chance to beat the odds, but I always find a way.